Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Gabriele and I'm your webinar coordinator today. This webinar is provided by Link Campus University in collaboration with Habitat World. Thank you so much. Right, so
thank you.
Habitat World's mission is to contribute to the cultural, social evolution and economic growth of the civilization by focusing on the synthesis between nature, art, science and economics. Its presence is mainly in the Euro-Mediterranean area, and it achieves these objectives by promoting research, development and implementation of a wide array of projects focused on sustainability, as well as generating new ways of collaboration and cooperation, and setting up project works for investments in arts, science, economic and nature. This general theme is developed by Biennale Habitat between over a period of 3 years between 2020 and 2022 by focusing on human well-being, the cultural heritage of the Mediterranean area, and the sustainability of different natural and anthropogenic habitats. The 3 pillars on which it focuses are heritage, environment, and human values. Among its activities, there are, of course, academic webinars, seminars, and musical performances, as well as painting and sculpture exhibitions, open days for institutions, and collaboration with universities such as the Link Campus University. This webinar is chaired by Hamdy EL-Setouhy, an architect, a consultant architect specialized in designing public buildings as well as environment areas. He's a lecturer at the Faculty of Engineering at the Cairo University, as well as being the founder of AHCI Egypt. He won many national and international awards, among which the Archi Awards Africa 2018 in the Cultural Heritage category, and the first prize in the Mediterranean Heritage of Humanity, and the second prize in the Badr International Architecture Award in the organized by the Ministry of Culture of the Republic of the UAE and Chairperson. He participated in many scientific conferences and webinars, as well as conferences, and is today the chairperson of this webinar. I leave the word to him.
Grazie, Eva, and thank you for your nice words. And of course, I want to thank Link Campus University for hosting this event. Come back to our heritage. We can go back. But first, I want to thank you, say thanks to everyone attends this event. And everyone, we will watch our documentation about this event. And everyone, we will integrate with us for next event. It's my pleasure to be part of the first webinar of Habitat World Biennale. This day it will be a great day, 27th of May 2020. But you know, I have a secret. Come with me. It's very difficult. Yes, it's very difficult to moderate an event like this. We have a very valuable speaker. We have a guest, Mr. Ambassador of Egyptian ambassador in Italy, and we have a very valuable speaker. We have 7 represent a different institution and with a different background. About our program today, I will make a short presentation at the beginning to show what is our vision to this day, and then we will go to our guest speaker, Mr. Ambassador Hisham Badr, and then we will go to our speakers. We have 7 speakers and so on. But first, I want to say thank you for our partners. We are really appreciated to work together and make something different and special, and enjoy to work together. Let's go to our topic today. Our topic is divided to two parts. The first is about heritage, which we need to rethink about in the Euro-Mediterranean region. And the second, it's about our situation we live today. It's a crisis, for sure, a crisis. But we need to launching initiatives in overcoming shock scenarios. But I have two questions. What and why? What is the event, the activities of our event today, and why? But I will answer the question of why later in the end of my presentation. We will go to what. What is this? What is this event and the activities? It is a discussion, of course. It's a talks, of course. It's a round table. We share our opinion and discuss our feedback, of course. But from my opinion, it's not only discussion and talks from our speakers, or it's a round table. For me, it's a journey. Yes, it's a journey. And make our journey through these words: civilization, humanity, identity, culture, heritage, so. But it's not a collection of some words. It's a state. I want to live in the state of heritage. We want to live in a state of humanity, and so on. And of course, the hero of today is the rethinking heritage, the word rethinking. But I want to go to two letters I like very much, re, the re and e, because I believe it's re's time. Yes, it's re's time. We need to re a lot of action. We need to reuse our heritage. Of course, it's more sexual to refunction our heritage. But we need first to refunction our mind. Not reuse only, but reuse with another approach, another methodology from a starting point, different starting point, and so on. And of course, we need rehabilitation. But not only rehabilitation of our heritage. We need rehabilitation of our soul. And of course, the critical word is restart. Because our world will restart it. Today, in few days, a few months, but it will be restarted. I don't care about who manages this, who moderates this, who is the leader. I don't care. Because the very important thing is, if our world will be restarted, it will be restarted with the same operating system. I think it will be, we have to create a new operating system. It's a responsibility. And we are part of this responsibility. When we talk about regeneration, we talk about regeneration of our urban architecture. That's a culture product. I think we need to regenerate our culture, and then our culture product will regenerate it automatically. Now we can go to our word rethinking and heritage. Yes, we need to look from another point of view to our heritage. We need to deal with our heritage from different approach. Heritage is a civilization, not antiques. We need to revive our civilization and regenerate our culture in the Euro-Mediterranean region. Now, I can go to the second part of our topic. It's about the situation, the dramatic situation we live now. And how can we launch initiatives in overcoming shock scenario? We talk about this crisis. It's really crisis, of course, but we can look to our crisis from another point of view, another approach. When I feel we have a crisis, my mind tries to find a power to be generated from our beliefs. I believe that in the yes, for indeed with hardship will be easy. It's part of our whole Quran, Holy Quran. It's Surah Ish-Shar. It's a valuable concept. And we can go to another belief. You know, Witty, the vision of Witty? Witty, in Chinese language, it means crisis. The Chinese language is written from a group of shapes, you know that. And the word may consist of 2 shapes or 3, or each one represents its consists of we and T. We, it's danger. But what about T? T is chance. Chinese believe that in every crisis there is a danger, but also there is chance to cross the crisis and solve the root of the problem. Do you remember this? I'm really optimistic. Yes. It's a very difficult thing. In fact, it's a big disaster of crisis. It's a black death, black blood. I don't care about the name or where, but the very important information is more than a third of the European population died from the black death. This is a very important information. But what happened? From the crisis, the Renaissance civilization generated. Yes, we have a chance. Of course, we have a chance. We can make a new Renaissance, new civilization from the crisis. Please, we need to find our chance in this big crisis. Now, can I go back to the first question about and the answer about why? Why we host this event at this day, this time, at this situation? Why? It's simply, it's about situation. Please look for our situation from the perspective of the beliefs of animal Austrians, Witty, Renaissance. We have a crisis, that we have also an opportunity. And this is a challenge. And thank you. Now we can go to our first speaker. It's our guest, special guest, Mr. Ambassador Hisham Badr. But first, we have a small video about Italia and Egypt, and we have a question. We can link in our heart.
Abbiamo percorso una lunga strada. Dicono che siamo legati dal mare, vicini nel Mediterraneo, cittadini dello stesso impero, amanti a prima vista, comici nell'esistenza, musicisti nel DNA, poeti per natura. Siamo legati dai nostri cuori. Avete condiviso la nostra scienza, abbiamo condiviso la vostra arte. Le linee sono scomparse, i confini si sono dissolti, rendendoci solo uno. Il nostro cibo, i nostri gesti, la nostra architettura, la nostra arte. Siamo legati dai nostri cuori. Rumorosi, appassionati, fanatici per il calcio. Feluca, gonella, limone, fattura sono solo alcune delle tante parole che condividiamo. Ma che importa? Perché non siamo vincolati dalla lingua, Siamo legati dal cuore. I nostri cuori sono uno e il nostro dolore è uno. Cuore a cuore siamo solidali, Egitto e Italia, per sempre legati dal cuore.
Now I want to go to Mr. Ambassador Hisham. I meet Mr. Ambassador for the first time about 1 year ago in Sardinia. At this time, I saw a different person, really a different person, who has a unique vision about humanity and culture, and of course, civilization and so on. That's why I like to introduce our delegate ambassador not as an ambassador, but as a man believes in humanity and culture and knows very well that is the role of Egypt, which considers Mr. Ambassador, I like to hear from you.
Ashkurak Hamdy Bassett. Thank you very much, Mr. Setouhy. And it's always a pleasure to be with you and to speak to you. Buongiorno a tutti. È un grande piacere e onore essere con voi. È un tema molto importante in questo giorno dell'Eid, del Fitr, che noi celebriamo. Lo celebriamo oggi con tutti questo a Link Campus. Grazie a Link Campus. Adesso voglio parlare un po' in inglese perché lo so che c'è molta gente con noi che non parlano italiano, ma volevo cominciare con l'italiano, la lingua più bella del mondo, la lingua di questo racconto, la lingua che noi siamo in Italia. Ti saluto tutto, voglio ringraziare particolarmente la mia amica Annika Patregnani, presidente del Habitat World, e il mio compatriota ingegnere Hamdy EL-Setouhy per tutto questo lavoro, buon lavoro che ha fatto questo webinar. Now, having said that, I want to say that since as an ambassador living in Italy and sharing with my fellow friends and Italians the sad story of the COVID and seeing Italy being affected in such a tragic manner like this, I'd like to start by conveying the Egyptian government, the Egyptian people, my personal condolences to the Italian government, to the Italian people, to all my friends with us in this webinar on the death of so many Italians, and to give our condolences to the mourning families. At the same time, one cannot but also salute the entire Italian health corps and health personnel, as well as the Italian civil protection corps and society, whose members have risen to this occasion around the clock sacrifices. And in this regard, the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has affirmed, too, in many conversations with the Prime Minister, President Giuseppe Conte, Egypt's full-fledged support to Italy and the Italian government in this battle against the pandemic and all the efforts to mitigate this crisis. And as you may have followed, one of the symbolic or one of the practical support that the Minister of Health of Egypt came to Pratica di Mare Air Base the 4th of April with 2 cargo planes with some help of masks and protective suits and sanitary equipment to try to assist. And this shows that we will never shy away from supporting Italy. Italy is a country has always supported Egypt, has stood with Egypt historically and traditionally a very solid friend. And also from our part, we will also stand with Italy whenever needed. Also, I'd like to stress that when talking about the Mediterranean, we are a proud Mediterranean country, over 1,000 kilometer coastline on the Mediterranean, and bound full of cultural heritage, and that our ancestors have recorded the first human civilization in history around the Nile. And therefore, the 3 main words that we talk about are the Mediterranean, heritage, and humanity. These 3 words are bound and are part of Egypt's history and legacy. And we consider the Mediterranean not only a sea that unites us and not divides us, but we consider it actually the crucible of civilization. The human civilization grew around the Mediterranean. And therefore, the world heritage is tied to this area, and which we share together. And there, on the banks of the sea, all these great civilizations started with the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the Phoenicians, and the great Roman civilization. Therefore, they have taught us all, humanity in special ways, have to live peacefully, to work tirelessly, to govern efficiently, to worship devoutly, and we're still learning from this. And when you're living in Italy, in this beautiful country, as ambassador of Egypt, you go all around and you see the beautiful obelisks in all the piazzas. In San Pietro, San Popolo, Repubblica, all of the beautiful obelisks, and reminds you how proud we are of all the obelisks and all the sphinx and all the things in the beautiful museum. Now, I want to tell you also that the link in the Mediterranean should not only be bound by maritime routes, exports and imports and investment, but also the true strength of the Mediterranean lies from the intercultural, interpopular linkages, and that there are endless examples, as you saw the video that was done by one Egyptian lady, how we are bound by the heart and with the Mediterranean spirit. I think that of this beautiful Mediterranean spirit that is ever strong, that is a spirit that is fueled and healed and preserved humanity for everlasting heritage thousands of years. In this context, it is that we welcome the opening a new chapter in intercultural cooperation with Italy through the Habitat World institution headed by our able friend Annika Patregnani. And Egypt's cooperation with the Habitat started with our active participation in the Mediterranean Award for Culture, which we are proud to say was won by our proud Egyptian, who is our chairperson today, Engineer Hamdy EL-Setouhy. Mr. EL-Setouhy was awarded this Mediterranean Award for Culture and a pilot project in Shazli service complex that is considered simple yet smart, with a core mandate of adding value to local communities. This project employs local raw materials in traditional techniques in order to facilitate its reuse by local residents and its maintenance later. The Shazli project also enables local residents to have a genuine connection and enables them to interact productively with their community. The project is to revive traditional construction methods and techniques and give unemployed local residents the relevant, competent building skills to enable them to become effective producers in the community. And this is a message that we should spread, how to employ the traditional and the heritage to give people employment opportunities and to give them a better life. And the award ceremony I had the honor to attend in Alghero last year kick-started new avenues for cooperation between Egypt and Italy, and we have been coordinating with Habitat World to make the Biennale Habitat 2022 a success with an Egyptian flavor. We were anticipating to host the launching ceremony in Alexandria, to be attended by several renowned speakers from Egypt and Italy, and to be followed by similar events in Rome. We are also spearheading a new chapter in cooperation with the Biblioteca Alexandrina and are pursuing advanced talks with its leadership to co-organize cultural and heritage-related events with Habitat World. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, today we face a new frontier in the post-COVID-19 world, and we are confronted with severe challenges awaiting the entire world in general and the Mediterranean in particular. Without a doubt, this global pandemic has unfolded worldwide with unexpected and devastating effects, inherently impacting how we will live and work. Of course, the cultural and heritage-related community of scientists, experts, and facilitators is similarly affected, thereby necessitating rethinking and reevaluating of our approach. To elaborate, for example, on a specific example, however, showing that along with this challenge comes an opportunity to try to work with the new normal, il nuovo normale come dicono, how we can look at this, improve our work and not be stopped by this. And specific examples relates to museums and cultural centers, which inevitably face the challenge of less daily visitors, but have also been presented with significant opportunity to improve and develop their electronic footprint and thereby multiply their viewership through through online programs and using various technological tools such as virtual reality, online webinars such as this one, and even online, excuse me, it's good that we are far away.
Bless you.
This is an advantage. And even online tours with enhanced reality features. Such new approaches could also help procure new and additional financial resources through advertising means. Of course, it may seem like a steep challenge to climb, yet I truly believe that such novel approaches to cultural exchanges is not only favorable but necessary in the post-COVID world. I also believe that all countries of the world are facing economic downturn. Finding the necessary financing for cultural and heritage-related activities would be another challenge, but we have to meet. We have to see how. However, by adopting and embracing new technology, cultural exchange institutions, and overcome such a challenge. I would like in this respect to commend Habitat World for recognizing this aspect and pursuing such a track, starting with the organization of a webinar on the occasion of the World Heritage Day last April, and proceeding with the future plans for this Biennale without succumbing to the challenges ahead with a more online-based approach. Also imagine that a lot of online training exercises in the field of cultural exchange and heritage preservation could be tailor-made and formulated that would be a valuable addition to the cultural landscape of the Mediterranean basin countries. Indeed, know-how could be transmitted from one country to another through online platforms in an equally effective manner. Finally, I encourage all present among us to not to feel disheartened by the negative effects of the pandemic, but try to look despite these challenges to the positive aspects that could be gained from a faster and easier exchange of information between our countries, institutions, and individuals. At the end of the day, the message I want to get to you, thanking all of you for participating, is that when the Mediterranean is strong, we are all strong. And it is up to, I think, two important countries like Egypt and Italy and other countries in the Mediterranean to take this initiative and to bring back the spirit, the great spirit that has shaped human civilization, humanity, and heritage. Thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to working and cooperating with Habitat, with all of you, to make this a successful occasion and to build on this friendship and culture, which is at the end of the day, culture is what binds us. Culture opens doors. Culture is the essence of everything. Grazie mille, un'altra volta. Thank you, Hamdy EL-Setouhy.
Thank you. Shukran, Mr. Ambassador, for your valuable words and message and support. Of course, involve citizens, community, and culture, heritage is the way to cross this crisis. Thank you very much. Now we can go to Dr. Jyoti Hosagrahar, the Deputy Director of the World Heritage Center at UNESCO. Among other responsibilities, she leads the implementation of the Historic Urban Landscape Recommendation, the Cities Program, Policies for Culture and Natural Heritage for the 2030 Agenda, and the New Urban Agenda, the Earth Architecture Program, and the World Heritage Fund, as well as the development and implementation of thematic indicators for culture in the SDGs across the culture sector. Dr. Jyoti, world has 1,121 sites listed by UNESCO. This site represents the world's history. Do you see that we need to rethink about heritage? This is first. Second, and how can your organization help the Mediterranean region to rethink heritage in the world of today? On the other hand, we live in real crisis. Do you see an opportunities? In this situation, can we make make use of them to manage our heritage, like proposals on restoration, retraining of personnel, community involvement, digitalization of heritage? Dr. Jyoti, I know you have ideas and initiatives to present it, and we want to hear from you. The floor is yours.
very much for organizing this meeting and for inviting me to join you. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's a really important moment when we are looking at a situation of crisis. I'm going to request you to forward the slides as I need them. Thank you very much.
Can you see this?
Yes, we can see the slides. Yes, yes, perfect. Thank you. So when we're talking about rethinking heritage in the Euro-Mediterranean region and launching initiatives and overcoming shock scenarios, obviously we're not yet through with the shocks. The shocks are still unfolding as we speak, and at the same time we need to start acting. What I want to do is to talk about two things, because I think both are really important for us to keep in mind. The first is, of course, we are facing a crisis situation. How are we looking at culture and cultural heritage in this moment, and how is UNESCO responding to this crisis? And the second is, at the same time, it's not, even though it seems like the whole world has come to a stop and this is what we have to do, we have also to keep thinking about the sort of longer term activities that we have put in place very carefully, that are necessary, because these are activities that focus on cultural heritage as a non-renewable resource, you could say, as a precious commodity, and the conservation of them, and seeing how we take that mandate forward also, because that the relevance and the importance of it is only reinforced at this moment. So next, please. So I just want to give you a very quick overview of all the different actions that cultural heritage at UNESCO in the culture sector. We have 6 culture conventions and 3 recommendations, and this is important to keep in mind because we're looking at a range of different types of actions. When we say culture and cultural heritage, the field is huge, whether we're looking at the built heritage in the 1972 convention, or you're looking at the intangible heritage and the 2003 convention on the intangible cultural heritage. We have also the 1970 convention on the against the on illicit trafficking and of cultural goods and cultural property. We have also the convention on the prevention of the destruction of heritage in armed conflicts, and the Convention for Underwater Cultural Heritage. In addition to this, we have, of course, the UNESCO recommendation on the historic urban landscape, as well as a recommendation on museums. This is more focused on heritage. In addition, we have the Convention on the Diversity of Cultural Expressions, which is more on the creative industries, as well as the recommendation on the status of the artist, both of which are very important at this moment. Next, please. So it is, when we're talking about heritage, in some ways we're talking about this broad realm, but we're also talking about cities, because we're talking about cities as the place where a lot of this is concentrated, both the heritage, 70% of the world's cultural heritage are in cities. The World Heritage List, 70% of the cultural heritage sites are in cities. And the Euro-Mediterranean has some of the most amazing urban heritage. Here you're seeing the publication Culture Urban Future, which was brought out at the Habitat 3 in 2016. It was launched, which talks about cultural heritage as fundamental for sustainable urban development. And I bring this up because I think that being able to look at both of these together, the crisis and sustainable urban development, as sustainable development as such, is very critical. Next, please. The two are clearly linked, and that's an emphasis that we have been seeing. World Heritage in Europe Today is another publication that captures some of the things that we have come up with, where we're looking at the recently completed second cycle of periodic reporting in Europe, and the realities of World Heritage in Europe and the recommendations for improvement are captured here. Next, please. We have also because the World Heritage Convention itself has so many policies that are all very useful and relevant, we have put them together as a policy compendium that you can see here, so that you can see how a variety of these come together. Next, please. I'll come back to the point about indicators, but I just want to share with you the Culture 2030 indicators that we developed and launched at the forum at the UNESCO General Conference, when it was the forum of the Ministers of Culture, where there were more than 140 Ministers of Culture. Next, please. So we have been working with the EU across all of these different areas to develop a range of projects for implementing these. The conventions are sort of somewhat abstract texts, but to implement them on the ground, from this reviving the spirit of Mosul, which has been a flagship project, to the art market, to the cash for work in Yemen, the support of livelihoods in Jordan and Iraq, and the protection of heritage in conflict regions, Silk Road. I mean, there's just been a number of projects. Next, please. We also have been working with the Union for the Mediterranean on the urban developing the urban regeneration. We have been the key knowledge partners supporting this for the Union, the Mediterranean, along with the Delft University. We have worked on this with them to provide guidance on how the regeneration of urban areas can be integrated with cultural heritage. And we see that this kind of knowledge base, we also have 3 projects developed with UNESCO Chair in the Mediterranean. Next, please. We organized in Croatia and then also in Tunis a European Young Heritage Professionals Forum and a youth forum in Tunisia. That have very recently that have been very, very valuable in engaging youth in heritage towards making more inclusive and sustainable Europe. This project in Croatia was done in the framework of the EU, the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. But the forum itself was organized last year. Next, please. So in response to COVID-19, I'm just going to highlight a few of the many activities that we have been undertaking. The first is, of course, the online meeting of the Ministers of Culture that was organized on the 22nd of April, where we had more than 140 Ministers of Culture engaged, ministers, vice ministers, who are looking at what the culture sector is dealing with, because we're dealing with an unprecedented upheaval and the impact on tourism, as many of you have pointed out, and as on cultural production and artists has been enormous. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. So, oh no, sorry, yeah. So looking here, if you go to the World Heritage Center website or you go to the UNESCO website and look at the pages on culture sector response to COVID-19, you will see a world map that we've developed where we've weekly updating it to look at the number of sites across 667 countries, looking at the sites, the World Heritage sites, which have been closed due to the COVID-19 lockdown, and what this means when it has been locked down. Because the closure of a number of sites, now gradually some of them have started to reopen. This brings up actually two issues when you're looking at the reopening of sites. One is the issue of what happens when the sites are closed, when there is a loss of tourism to these sites, when people are not able to access their sites, which local communities use for themselves, for their own, they're meaningful places for them. They're not just tourist sites, they're actually meaningful for the local communities, and they're not able to access them because of the laws. And then you have a situation where some sites, when they are opened, they become sort of the points where everybody converges, descends on it suddenly, and you're not able to protect it. For natural heritage sites, it has been also an issue because it means that when, there is both sides to it. On the one hand, when people are out of the sites have been thriving. And on the other hand, when, you have more poaching because in some sites, because it's closed and people are able to access it illegally. And then you have a situation where it suddenly is opened up and people flood into it. And this can also lead to the jumping of these viruses from humans to animals, animals to humans. So it's not it's a situation that has to be looked at carefully also. Next, please. So all of this kind of monitoring is a lot of what we are doing. We're also developing a whole lot of online training tools and webinars as a way to access virtual visits to World Heritage sites, museums, exhibitions, giving spotlight to living heritage practices, because people in the lockdown situation have been unable to access not only other types of cultural information, but the idea that you may have wanted to visit a site and are not going to have such a prospect for quite a while. That is something significant here, and so trying to use the opportunity. And of course, we have really, despite the fact that I had so much difficulty with the Google Meets because this was my first webinar on this platform, we have been using a lot of new different virtual platforms to reach out to people to gather and to develop online exhibitions and so on. Next, please. And I just have one or two more slides. So we've also been asking site managers to give us videos of what is going on in the sites and to share with us information. We have asked them and collected a lot of information on the kinds of ways in which they're dealing with the closures and the lockdowns and the management of the site and the conservation of it. Of course, all the conservation work has just come to an absolute halt in most places. In some places, they're still able to carry on because archaeological work, for instance, has not been under lockdown in some countries. And I think this is the last example I have is of how we're looking also to reach out to young children, because one of the huge groups, of course, who have been highly impacted by these lockdown and closures have been the kids who are out of school, which also means that they don't have any more access to the kind of cultural knowledge that they could have gained through school. At the same time, it's an opportunity to engage them in the richness of global diversity. So we actually ran and have just completed a huge campaign on little artists, asking children from ages 6 to 12 across the world to draw a UNESCO World Heritage site and ask their parents or their teachers to post it on Instagram. And we received more than 572 contributions from children in 55 countries on 154 World Heritage properties. So it's very rich, and you can see this exhibition online. Next, please. So from the World Heritage Cities program, we are looking at developing, of course, the idea that, first of all, we're having a seminar, a webinar that we will have on the 17th of June, but also we will be, next please, is there another slide? Otherwise I just end here, yeah. You can go back to the previous slide, please, thank you. I think the point that we're looking at is how to integrate sustainable urban development with heritage conservation for World Heritage Cities in a very local way. So that you're looking, really focusing on local economic development, local social, which is not tourism focused. Because I think at the moment, the idea that there were so many heritage areas that were focused completely on tourism, and they're looking at somehow getting back tourism. But while that may take some time and certainly has to be done, what we're looking at is the opportunity to reclaim some of these spaces for the local communities, for the families, and giving opportunities with alternative employment through rebuilding with using local technologies, local materials, enabling local foods to thrive, so that this will help the local economic development, and also the local people who might have been marginalized in many ways compared to the tourists, allow them to be able to make make a simple living through these approaches. And I'll stop here, and I'm happy to take questions and discuss more.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti. I like the way to monitor the situation, this situation using the active map and how UNESCO deal with the critical situation, online World Heritage City Lab or Little Artists Exhibition. It's very good idea. When you talk about culture, I remember Mr. Ambassador Hisham Badr, when he said the culture is our assets. And he said we are strong. We are really strong. Thank you very much, Dr. Jyoti. Now, to restore with more than 27 years of experience in local and regional projects in the area of architectural consultancy, contracting, design management, and restoration of historic monuments and sites. He's also lecturer at the Faculty of Architecture and Fine Arts at the Lebanese University, and past chairman of the department, and current PhD candidate at the School of Science and Technology. He's a current president of UMAR, Union of Mediterranean Architects, and former president of architects at the Order of Engineers and Architects in Tripoli. And he is the chairman of the UMAR Heritage Foundation in Tripoli. My friend Wassim, you are the president of UMAR since 2 years ago, and I can trace the efforts you and your colleagues make it to revive our UMAR. Wassim, you are the president of architects in the Mediterranean, and we are talking today about rethinking heritage in the Mediterranean. So, please tell us about how can your organization help architects to rethink heritage in our region, and in other hand, I know that you have a unique ideas to deal with this crisis situation, this difficult situation. My dear Wassim, I want to hear you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, my dear Hamdy. Thank you, everyone. I'm really quite sorry for this technical hiccups we've been facing. This is the undesirable side effects of technology. And as for the majority of us, we are among the hybrid generation that we moved recently to this high-tech measures and platforms. I really thank you for this introduction. I'm just a humble architect in the Mediterranean, trying to do my best to be useful and to serve our architectural community, to best serve humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, dear organizers, speakers, and audience, Your Excellency, our special honored guest, Mr. Hisham Badr, my dear friend, the Ambassador of the Republic of Egypt in Italy. Dear speakers, audience, and colleagues, on behalf of the Union of Mediterranean Architects, UMAR, I would like to thank World Habitat and Habitat Biennale and the Link Campus University and all supporting partners on organizing this live webinar. In fact, our participation is the fruit of the cooperation protocol we have signed in Tomar, Portugal, between UMAR and Biennale Habitat last December 2019, when it was easy to travel. And this is my second today, this critical change and environmental degradation will be among our main adopted strategies. Practices at every member section on both academic and practice levels, playing the role of the Mediterranean communication hub, noting that the UMAR members are covering 13 Mediterranean countries from the south of Europe, the west of Asia, and the north. Webinar here. I hope it will be triggering. Things me know whenever it's seen, hopefully with no troubleshooting this time.
We hope.
So connection. I'm on my 4G connection. As well, it's my first time on this platform. We are more used to the Zoom platform, but then again, it's okay. But somehow the share blue button is not popping up.
Hi, Wassim. Have you tried to select the screen inside the present now panel?
Yes, yes. Now it's moving. Now, yeah, now it's moving, I guess.
Yeah, great. You have now shared your screen. Just go to the presentation.
Can you see it now?
Great. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yes,
so,
great. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, within this nice cheering photos of possible opening of the world soon, to go back to tourism, to traveling, to interconnecting physically. Frankly speaking, during the last decades, the main, and most recently the last decade, the main threat that been addressing the cultural heritage was including but not limited to the climate change, the aggressive climate condition, the crazy weather, the impact on fragile historical sites, and then could be the financial resources to finance the conservation and protection plans for the heritage. in the light of economical crisis, which is now increasing after the post-COVID era. I still remember the forum they had with the Union of International Architects in Baku last June in 2019, addressing basically the negative impact of mass tourism on our cultural heritage. We still remember some shocking photos that shows the heavy rains and floods and catastrophic impact resulting from the climate change, the blizzards and the heavy snows in the cities that was unusual for the last century. Also, we saw the shocking photos that shows the massive, colossal ferry boats invading the fragile city, and these photos from Venice that has been subject to several debates and discussions. The flow of tourists due to the facilities of traveling and moving on around those cities, basic and main target destination for many tourists were to the heart of heritage city and monument listed as a World Cultural Heritage. The impact of mass tourism on fragile city due to the abrasion and the movement and mobility of tourists all around. And we can see many core historical cities that were a prime destination for mass tourism. And we have considered recently that could be one of the most critical challenges that we have to deal with. Unfortunately, we were all surprised and shocked by this pandemic that has invaded the planet and causing a very negative impact on our society, on our daily routine. We've been locked down in our places, rethinking many things as priorities within our lives due to the isolation and loneliness that cause sadness, unfortunately. But then this could be triggering to emphasize and to start rethinking some serious changes to our community, the community that has been disconnected with the all the possible transportation methods for the first time. We used to see these in science fiction movie, but we never expected that we will be witnessing this in our era, in our lives, and literally the planet was shut down and closed in front of everyone. The post-COVID-19, I mean, we don't really know. We are still digesting this pandemic. We are still thinking and planning how we will be reacting. This might last for years, forever. It might end up suddenly as it started. This could stop and recurrent again with maybe heavier waves. The virus still now is continuing to spreading, and we are all thinking and trying to predict how the world will look after we wake up from this pandemic. Usually, as I said, the crises are catalysts for positive change. We have to invest in this. We have to start growing. We have to think together. In the current crisis, we need to last. I mean, we don't have much time. It's something new to us. It's something very challenging. And if, of course, the cultural heritage is not exempted. And it's not a luxury, of course. We have to consider what we can do on that level. Maybe the world will start opening. Many cities now are reducing the measures of lockdown. People have shown, frankly speaking, a certain level of resilience and adaptation to this situation. A lot have learned and have gained a new experience with this drill, with this mandatory drill that we've been forced to live in. And of course, the topic of heritage is taking a lot of care by many activists around the planet. But the current consequences, frankly speaking, are not all negative. We have some positive impact of this situation. We have less threats to cultural heritage. We have because due to the less tourism, less visited heritage sites, or less abrasions, less negative impact. And frankly speaking, we all know that the climate is in a better condition that has never been witnessed during the last century. We have witnessing clear skies due to the absence of fly jets. And we have to consider the responsibility had on our shoulders versus the heritage and the culture, which is definitely not a luxury. And it is the connection between the people, between a human being and their history and their collective memory. We have to try thinking how we can function the unfunctionable. Some measures of adaptive reuse for many abandoned monuments could be considered to involve communities, also taking into consideration the possible recess that we are going to witness in the post-pandemic era, causing a lot of economic crisis, where we have to consider spending strategies. Excuse me? So, yes?
No, all is okay. Go.
All right. So we have to in the absence of a possible easy and affordable traveling, maybe we should start thinking promoting the local tourism. Every one of us has his own cultural heritage, which is unknown for many local residents in many countries. Another positive input that all the sites now, due to the less visitors, are possible to have a continuous restoration. In this regard, I would like to say that some new parameters should be considered, like the focusing on health-oriented approaches. We have to think of eliminating risk of disease transmissions if these sites are open or the museum will be receiving visitors. The virtual technology, many are speaking about it, but I think the technology should be improving the efficiency of these possible VR tours and being available for everyone. The digital resources and infrastructure will be among the top investments in the coming era. We should always consider that the heritage site visited, because the question is, the virtual technology, how efficient it is and how close to us, how sustainable it is. We are a human being. We need to connect physically. We have to put hands in hands and experience this tactile relationship between human being and heritage. UMAR, frankly speaking, as an organization that have been established in 1993, is doing a lot of energy, a lot of investment, a lot of efforts trying to cope with this current unexpected situation. We can be acting on promoting adaptive strategies within the Mediterranean region, because we are connecting most of the architects, organizations, associations, and orders. We can think of sharing experiences. Definitely everyone has gained his own experience after this extraordinary situation. We should show solidarity and support, because it's not the same in every country. Every country has its own special condition and special circumstances. On the academic level, the online distance learning, I mean, it shows a lot of positive things. Maybe we should reconsider in the future that could be a part-time tool, because it was quite efficient despite of many negative side effects. Nevertheless, I think the synergy with partners and similar organizations, a lot of organizations, we can see how many partners are contributing with this webinar. We have to collaborate. This is the era of collaboration and communication. UMAR could be considering launching and endorsing competitions for initiatives addressing the tangible heritage and possible resilient solutions for the upcoming challenges. As I said, we are still into this. No one can predict or no one can claim that he has the full receipt or the full formula of possible successful solutions. It's a challenge ahead of us. We have to all contribute, we have to all assist each other and think together to face the upcoming challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wassim. I agree with you. It's time to think together and collaboration. It's really, we need to collaboration and think together and share our knowledge. We can go to Dr. Hala Aslan. Dr. Hala Aslan has PhD from École Pratique des Hautes Études, Paris, a consultant for the International Council of Monuments and Historic Sites, ICOMOS, UNESCO, and many other international organizations since 2010. In 2019, Dr. Hala Aslan was awarded and honored as one of the 10 outstanding young people in the world as a pioneer in the academic leadership and accomplishment category. Since she has continued to work in the rehabilitation field using the personal architectural experience and archaeology knowledge to study domed houses in the northern Syria. Dr. Hala, you are an expert in ICOMOS, and according to your work, you deal with lots of World Heritage Sites. You know, according to the announcement of UNESCO, that 90% of countries have either completely or partially closed their World Heritage Sites. From the perception of witty, do you can learn from our history and convert the dangers to opportunities? You have an initiative and ideas. Please tell us about it and about your vision to how Rethinking Heritage Dr. Hala, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Hamdy. Thanks for the organizer inviting us to such interesting webinar. As you know, billions of people around the world turn to culture for comfort and to overcome social isolation during the COVID-19 crisis, which is negatively influencing the cultural heritage sector. With the announcement of UNESCO that 90% of countries have either completely or partially closed their World Heritage properties, we need to launch initiatives to support cultural heritage sites and industries. Some I have in mind are developing protocols and mechanisms to reopen heritage sites on 3 levels: workers, site administrators, and for the public. Before reopening the sites, workers administrators must attend online courses to reopen to respond to any emergency case resulting from the closure due to COVID-19. Collapses and cracks in architectural elements resulted from the lack of maintenance need restoration. By taking advantage from pre-trauma training programs with some modifications, of course, suitable to post-trauma, such as ICOMOS program, disaster risk management, and first aid for cultural heritage. Another one in my mind, strengthening capacity building of World Heritage professional and cultural and mixed sites by World Heritage Center, ICOMOS in partnership with ICROM and IUCN through different themes, UNESCO World Heritage and its rules, outstanding and universal value, state of convention and conservation and monitoring, legal framework, protection and management, threats affecting cultural heritage properties. Also, we must targeting professionals with specialized online courses that respect the particularity of each archaeological site and or historical monument. In addition to providing training on the necessary periodic maintenance stemming from the particularity of this cultural heritage. Also enabling and encouraging collaboration with local community and the site's neighborhood by targeting and communicating with the residents as soon as possible, asking their opinion on the site's needs through questionnaire on social media, of course, in order to create an interactive role for those residents in the action plan. On the other hand, we must take advantage from the current situation as an opportunity to adapt the format of its customary events, and including meetings, making better use of digital tools, value the role of traditional knowledge in sustainable development, and taking advantage of a virtual platform. We need a cultural heritage platform taking into consideration a new approach in the sector of cultural heritage and sustainability issues for assuring a long continuation of its activity. We must also discuss the new challenge in the sector of the heritage platforms, the emerging technology of heritage social platforms following the success of social platforms in many sectors. This new heritage-based platforms implement a more participatory approach for stockholders and citizens. Digitalization can represent a significant add value for the cultural heritage sector in the fields of documentation, preservation, and research. The various digital tools doesn't only make it possible to create better conditions for the preservation of cultural property, but also it can create a new data and knowledge networks in interdisciplinary research. However, the current dominant mode of departure for digitalization in all areas of society can bring with danger
that the original object itself will be pushed into the background and be forgotten. We must take into account the consequences of this matter, which is the main focus on digitalization, is only on those objects that are already in very good condition, often because they are already under the public eye and preservation is activity pursued. By making digital content and images available online, the basic of culture science and researchers, as well as social participation, will be strengthened. With that in mind, the states will continue to develop into a digital cultural country. We don't want to live in a digital country, cultural country. We want to live in a country that is rich in real cultural heritage, which is evidence of our past and which shows us where we come from. Digital methods are welcome, but they are only tools for protection of cultural assets, like a paintbrush for the painter and a scalpel for the doctor. Concerning the first question, as we all know, ICOMOS, which is the International Council of Monuments and Sites, has experts from all over the world, especially in the European region. ICOMOS believes that heritage is not only a drive towards sustainable development, but also a cornerstone of human and social recovery following disaster. Knowing that recovery will be long and will take various forms, ICOMOS, through its global networks and calling on its diverse expertise, will monitor and assess development and measures taken across countries for at least the coming 3 years from the perspective of heritage conservation. Annually, ICOMOS will publish a report on the recovery from the pandemic, covering both pre-vaccine and post-vaccine phases, and offer a solid basis for policy recommendation. Taking in consideration, as my colleague said, that UNESCO has launched online exhibition of dozens of heritage properties across the globe, most of which were on Europe Mediterranean region. Also launched a global social media campaign, Share Our Heritage, to promote access to education on cultural heritage during this time of mass quarantine. Children around the world are already invited to share drawings of World Heritage properties, giving them by this the opportunity to express their creativity and connection to heritage. Once the immediate crisis is over, Share Cultural and Share Our Heritage campaign will be maintained to share reflection on measure to safeguard World Heritage sites and promote sustainable tourism.
I like your presentation. You have a good vision and strategic plan to how we can reopen our sites, and it's very useful. And you have another suggestion about global social media under the title Share Our Heritage. You know, also the theme of this year from the ICOMOS is shared heritage, shared culture, and shared responsibility. I think it's one of our responsibility to share our heritage, and this is very useful suggestion. Thank you, Dr. Hala. And now go to Dr. Adeline Granerau. Dr. Granerau, Directrice du Musée Riccardo to Provence. Granerau, Public Relations Coordinator, Development Officer, ORBIS, International Field Public Relations Coordinator, Asia, Middle East, Africa, Eastern Europe. Your museum is very interesting place. I like it. And I am not lucky enough to visit before, but it's a very nice place. So please, in the beginning of your talk, give us an idea about this fantastic place. Okay? And according to the current situation, how do you manage the activities of the museum? And after the pandemic, do you think your activities will take the same form, or do you have other plans? Meanwhile, culture plays a vital role to solve the roots of this problem, and we need to learn lessons from history, and arts can lead us to get over. So, do you have a plan that you as a private institution think that are important to help people to do that? Adeline, Granerau, the floor is yours.
It's quite important to say that the Museum Hosagrahar de Provence is housed in the former maritime sanitary station that was built in 1948 by Fernand Pouillon at the order of the Health Ministry, and this building was meant to try to stop the plague pandemic. So here nowadays we are a private museum. The Foundation Hosagrahar de Provence did a major private investment to rehabilitate this building, which is a cultural heritage of Marseille and of the Euro-Mediterranean Sea. So obviously, as many other museums in the world, we had to close the museum on the 14th of March. And obviously, it has been quite difficult. We had two exhibitions on plays, and unfortunately, on the 11th of May, where we were able to live a quite normal life here in Marseille and in France, we had to dismantle the exhibitions, and so that our public couldn't see it because the loaners didn't want to lend their art anymore. And we had, for June, there were two major events, European events. One was going to take place in June in Marseille, Manifesta, which is a contemporary art biennale, reunion in different European institutions, and with a lot of major exhibitions. And obviously, we had to postpone our exhibitions with major international and European artists. Our exhibitions is going to take place in September, as Manifesta has decided not to cancel definitely the art fair, but just to postpone it in September, hoping that we will be able to welcome our public in a better method. So this has induced to cancel two major order and artistic commands of a collective of artists, One Up, which is from Berlin, Germany, as the topic of this exhibition that will take place in September is about graffiti and urban art. And unfortunately, due to the crisis, sanitary crisis, we are facing, as many other museums, an economic crisis. And we have had to reduce our budget of the exhibitions and to unfortunately cancel our artistic order. So not only obviously the museum and all museums are in very bad conditions and economic conditions, but also we think about the contemporary artists who have had major commands and orders from public or private institutions that have been cancelled. So that's one of the major issues. Also, we had another exhibition that we have to definitely cancel, as it was related to the World Nature Congress that was supposed to be taking place in Marseille in June, and also has been postponed to January 2021. So we had ordered also other photographers, as the topic of this second exhibition was going to be about Marseille and its majors and various harbors, as Marseille has different small and big harbors, and was related to the ecosystem and to the nature and to the European Mediterranean Sea and to preserve the environment and sustain it. And so with the prism contemporary artist related to this topic about water and about harbor and about European Mediterranean Sea. So now we are in a phase where gradually, starting June, some museums in Marseille and in France will reopen. As for our perspective as a private museum, we are not so in a rush to open, because we know that the people will be feared to be in the museum and to mingle with other people. And we would rather wait and have better conditions to open instead of opening and knowing definitely that it will be even more important crisis economically for us as a private museum. And besides, all the museums of Marseille, of the municipality of Marseille, have decided to reopen in June with a free entrance until the end of the year, which is great for the public. But as a private institutions, it's just such a bad news, as we are obliged to have a fee to have our public to enter into our exhibitions, as we are private and we don't have a lot of sponsors. We have a few sponsors from companies and a few subventions from the local governments. But as with this crisis, they all have cancelled their support, financial support, for the end of the year, maybe next year. So this is, again, also a very important subject for us. But otherwise, we're very optimistic, and we need to be. And due to this pandemic, I'm happy to be able to talk to you. Otherwise, I would never meet you. And what I think is obviously virtual reality, virtual guided tour is very important and is going to be increasingly important for people that would not want to go into the museums. But what is the city if there's no museum, no theater, no sports facility, no opera? Our role is to welcome people, is to share experience, to show art, and art being shown in a digital manner is very good, but it's just a complementary to on-site visits. So I think obviously gradually we will need to expand our contact with our public digitally, but not only, because human being and well-being, as you said, is at the center of our occupation, and even more now. So that's our perspective, our point of view.
Thank you. Really, we need to explain another way to contact through technology. We need to integrate in a smart way, on a different way. Now we can go to Cultura, Italiae. Dr. Nicola Ditullio, its founder and part of the board, has accurate and expertise of over 20 years in the field of information technology and energy sector. He was chairman of the board at ABS Merchant Bank from 2004 to 2006. He worked in several international organizations, including the UNDP, FAO, and WTP. Dr. Nicola, the world facing a dramatic situation, and we have to take a new approach to deal with our heritage and culture, and to do something different to help the Euro-Mediterranean region in this situation. The world in general, and the Mediterranean in particular, is facing a huge disaster on the terms of health and economy. So we need experts in different fields to help in absorbing the negative effects of that disasters and put future strategies and scenarios for such expected problem. That's why we need to provide and reserve suitable finance to achieve that internationally and regionally. I know your situation worked during the lockdown on 2 projects for recovering the culture, Bank of Creativity and Network of Cultural Capital of the World. Please, we need to know more about Cultura Italiae and these 2 projects. Dr. Nicola, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hear you.
First of all, I also want to thank Anna Patregnani at the Leeds University and the Biennale Habitat for the invitation. It is a very pleasure to be in this event, to be today with you. I try to share my presentation now. Cultura Italia. You have the task of representing Cultura Italia. Cultura Italia is an association that, since it was founded, has always been aimed at seeking dialogue and collaboration with international realities through culture and projects and shared projects. Cultura Italia was founded in 2016 and is a community of people with shared ideas and values in the world of culture. We started from our identity, from the Italian culture that represents a reference for all the countries of the world, to imagine a model for sharing projects and ideas with other countries. We know that over more than 2,000 years, the concept of Europe has been built through cultural exchange between different peoples, representing a model of harmony within diversity. From the dream of progress came cultural creation, but the lack of fair results lead to stagnation. Today, there is a shared feeling for us that the European project has lost its soul and no longer inspires the enthusiasm and hope that we once dreamed of. But for us, Europe has to steer the international community in resolving the major environmental and social challenges of our times in promoting the construction of a new shared project that our societies need. But our natural reference has been the Mediterranean area. For us, our identity as the Mediterranean identity. Mediterranean identity is a living example of a unity in diversity. Culture can be a strong means to building relationships based on trust, political equity, cooperation, and the pursuit of peace. And the defense, promotion, and enhancement of cultural rights are essential to guarantee equal opportunities. Diversity as a being fundamental for social, economic, and cultural progress. For our point of view, the diversity comprises 2 essential issues. The language preserve and enhance the various cultures of the Mediterranean area, and the cultural minorities. Their respect and preservation can build a stability and a mutual understanding from between different countries, between different peoples. What is the culture for us and what it needs? Culture for us is the need to rekindle its shared vision and construct a common project capable of truly training people, challenging stereotypes, and bringing gaps south, north, west, east. Culture is the common ground where all can work together, the place where diversity is assimilated to enrich our world. Culture, in fact, is diversity, because from the culture of diversity, we must regain fraternity and tolerance, and hence equality and freedom. Culturally, for us, is sensitivity, because by sharing culture, we will feed our sensitivity and revive the habitat of the deep and broad reflection that enables us to understand and respect those around us, ourselves in their reflection, and our environment as a whole. Culture for us is future. Culture will enable us to build a project for peace, enabling citizens and governments to share power in co-designing a fairer and more sustainable future. For this reason, as Cultura Italia, we will seek to create areas for cultural exchange, free and inclusive forums, where we can together rediscover the soul of the Mediterranean area, the common ground to lead us forward. Recovery project, the project we are working on. During the lockdown, a team of professionals are working on two projects. We aim to mix the best experience in the field of culture, finance, contemporary art, fashion, economy, from the perspective of inclusion, responsibility, and enthusiasm. First one, Bank of Creativity. The idea is to constitute a financial tool to encourage the creation and growth of initiatives in the cultural, creative, and experience economy. In fact, the world of finance and the world of creativity need to find a common language through which cultural and creative companies can have easier access to economic support system. In this context, innovative financial instruments such as venture capital, guarantees, and other risk-sharing tools provided by market players can play an important role in facilitating access to finance. Can you see the context, the ecosystem, the financial ecosystem, and the relationships they are between creative and art company and the financial needs. The second one is a project we call the Network of Cultural Capitals from the World. We are working to build a network of capital cities around the world, ancient and modern cities, with the spirit of modernity and the evolution of the story of the heritage of culture, the history of culture. Our idea is to create a platform for the elaboration of experience and cultural projects across the world with different peoples, different cultures, and with different perspective on the area of the culture, of the art, performing arts, music, events. Each year, this is the project, a city will be chosen as the capital of the year. It will coordinate events and activities around the world and with the collaboration of the others. And Cultura Italia, recently we created a spin-off called Cultura Mundi, which will have the task of coordinate the network's activity and starting partnership with the other countries, other institutions, other international organizations. The project will be presented in Venice the next year during an important celebration, and we had the collaboration and the partnership with the Guggenheim Foundation and the Venice International Foundation. We are working very hard on these two projects, and I hope they can show the first results in a short time with you, and I'm thanks a lot for this opportunity. Thank you.
Now we will go to Dr. Riccardo Onori. Dr. Riccardo Onori holds a PhD in business engineering in December 2004 and MBA in business and administration engineering December 2002 and is graduated in business engineering. He has collaborated in various consultancy projects for many national as well international industrial firms, mainly focusing on industrial policy modeling, enterprise risk management, and decision support system development. He is also a member of the Policy Council of the Italian chapter of the System Dynamic International Society, in charge of the International Relations Department. Dr. Riccardo, I want to know your opinion and see what your opinion and your vision about what we talked about today, especially how will the Euro-Mediterranean region, North and South, be able to withstand the current and further health economic shocks expected. Do you have any ideas on how these shocks absorbed can be financed? Please, Dr. Riccardo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me well? Is my connection working properly? I guess so. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm going to share my presentation. First of all, thank you very much to the colleagues preceding me and for the okay. So first of all, let me state here some premises on the meaning and also the relevance of the cultural heritage in the Euro-Med region. Cultural heritage is a fundamental factor to enhance the relations between the nations of this area, because of course it is a catalyst for mutual understanding and intercultural dialogue, and also this has been recognized at the highest political level, and especially in the chapters of the Barcelona Declaration, and furthermore there are several programs activated in the Mediterranean area to foster the preservation and promotion of shared cultural heritage. Thus, thanks to these, we all are now aware of the need of both protection and promotion of cultural heritage, and let me say, most of all, of the inherent responsibilities of both the governments and the cultural institutions of such protection and promotion. So we are aware of three main factors. First, protection is a requirement for us. Second, promotion is a need for us. And thirdly, responsibilities of government and institution in fostering such protection and promotion. Then to support the achievement of such objectives, we in Lille Campus University started studying the risks affecting the cultural heritage in the Euro-Mediterranean area, adopting a perspective mainly addressing both protection and promotion, and then considering the risk as a definition as something happening that could have a negative impact on these objectives, and we started to investigate how both natural and man-made hazards could reveal relevant and which are the best approach to deal with such phenomena. Okay, of course, we integrated the best known approaches that have already been provided both by the international standard organization or by the ICOMOS. There are several approaches that can be selected, but we prefer to stay with the standardized ones because they have been proved to be robust, so can be adopted with our study. And of course, while working on that, while working on mapping the risks of cultural institutions and the risks mainly affecting the cultural heritage, especially working with those institutions dealing with written cultural heritage, so such as libraries and archives. When working on that, one of these risks occurred this year, especially the COVID-19 is what we in the risk management sector call a black swan, and is a risk that is impacting dramatically on our cultural heritage, and especially affecting the accessibility of the cultural sites and accessibility of the cultural buildings and also the collection, and thus affecting mainly the promotion. So this is expected to produce an economic shock. So we started to interview somehow the institution we are working with and performed some SWOT analysis involving some of them. And here in this slide, you can see the main results of our investigation. What this SWOT analysis produced? Produced a main understanding of the strengths, which are exactly that people have reacted strongly, that there are here in place strong environmental safety and environmental system, that some institutions have demonstrated to be ready for smart working even more than in our thoughts. There are some weaknesses that that were revealed. For example, the first is that the cultural institution need to improve the management by objectives, that they need to be more open-minded because the work is going to change, that there will be new and unusual environment in which we are going to live, and also that they need to improve the people engagement. Either of those working within the cultural institution, either of the citizens who are expected to visit those cultural institutions. As concerns the opportunities, this survey revealed that opportunities are to be more digital. We have the opportunity now to engineering processes and activities, especially adopting a risk-based approach. We need to rethink of the processes underpinning the life in museums, in libraries and archives, and we need, of course, and they have also the opportunity to establish a new engagement, both internal and external. But of course, we have to cope with some threats that are still there. First of all, the COVID, let me say, is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. So it will be a long-lasting threat we have to face it with. So we have to improve our resiliency and to cope with uncertainty, but also with the volatility and the velocity of the change we are facing with. And last, but really relevant, there will be psychological threats that will affect both the person working within the cultural institution and also the citizens. So we must be aware about that. Now we have interesting results to start reasoning on, but the questions are still there. How to react to the threats and the weaknesses, how to foster strengths and opportunities, how to rethink the cultural heritage. In our opinion, the answer is easy, but not trivial. And the answer is by continuous education on risk management and by the enhancement of the human factor. And I'm going to explain a little bit these two statements. First of all, let me say that we started trying to answer to this question by using a framework that we developed by an internal project, which was launched more than 1 year ago and was titled SafeCult. And SafeCult is a project who is going to establish the next year a resident international course to support continuous education. And of course, it addresses the issues relating with risk management and risk assessment within the cultural institution. But most of all, let me say that we need continuous education because we need to update continuously on the risks affecting cultural heritage. We need to produce continuously new contents, and we need also to elaborate novel approaches in order to consider again and again the uncertainties we are facing with, both as threats and mostly as opportunities. In our opinion, the best way to react is to start to increase the frequency of connection, start to think globally to the education, to interconnect more with our colleagues in other countries, and to start to continue educate and exchange experience one with each other, and in order to cope with such risks. And we established also with the cultural institution we're working with a very simple roadmap. Okay, we are at the beginning of our work, let me say. This roadmap consists of 5 points, which are define a strategy to increase going digital, just to be ready to be more digital, leverage on the human factor and the narratives, and that means that we need to consider how the human factor can be boosted by the digital technology, and but also that we need to change the narratives and to elaborate new ways of talking about cultural heritage. Then we need to introduce some journeys in the educational programs because it's quite relevant to try to put there also the reasoning and the discussion that can be produced by the educational actors. And then we need to differentiate now. It's not the time to be global and act local. It's now the time to be global and act both at local level and at the global one. Because we need to interconnect each other to react to this kind of risk. And finally, we need to engineer the process and the activities. So, my answer to your question can be, I have 3 answers to your question. First of all, the digital experience of the cultural heritage and the physical one are not mutually exclusive. They should be integrated because the human factor and the socialization of experiences are enabling factors. A simple demonstration comes for this event we are attending right now, because we could share written notes, but it's not the same as the sharing by seeing each other, talking, even experiencing some technological issues. Second, we need to develop new narratives. We need to integrate the emotional side of our experiences to provide different perspectives to foster the cultural heritage accessibility. Virtual reality is good, but a recorded video is not. It's still the person guiding us into a visit. So the human factor is very relevant. Third, and I'm going to finish, we need an hybrid approach. More digital, more human, but together. We need to study deeply the systemic impact of an hybrid human and digital factor in cultural heritage promotion, considering, of course, how this factor can be enhanced by novel narrative strategies.
Thank you very much. You are right. COVID is a marathon, not a short race. Your COVID SWOT analysis, it's very important. And I like your strategy about education of the operators working. It's about new operating system. Very useful presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Riccardo Onori. Now we can go to Dr. Massimiliano Di Tonto. He is a PhD in computer science and UX researchers and expert of human-computer interaction, Internet of Things and digital fabrication. He was involved in several research project as a UX and HCI expert, working with Italian and international universities and companies, addressing several topics, including promotion of cultural heritage, Internet of Things, in vehicle system usability, mobile system usability, and indoor tracking system. He's also teacher of Internet of Things and Service and Innovation Design at Link Campus University. You are a researcher at Link Campus University, and your main research topic are new interaction paradigms and the relation between man and technology. New interaction paradigm and the relation between man and technology. And you are teacher of innovation design at Link Campus University. According to this, I want to ask you a question. And of course, know your opinion and vision about we talked today. Lockdowns and social distancing can also be used creatively in enhancing current heritage sites. Can you comment on this with possible proposals on restoration, retraining of personnel, community involvement, and digitalization of heritage? Dr. Mesidiano, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and thank you all for the invitation. So I will share my screen now. So, okay, I will share my screen with because I prepared the presentation. Okay, I hope everything is working fine. So
yes, okay.
I want to answer to your question, give my point of view about what this emergency have been doing and what is our work in Link Campus University about the digital transformation and cultural heritage. Of course, there was a change that was already going on in cultural heritage, because we know that the advent of the social networks, the digital communication, and so on, that changed the way we understand museums, the way we want to experience the cultural heritage, and what people ask, what tourists ask, how is changing the way people visit cities, looking for monuments and information. So, of course, the sector was already undergoing a deep process of transformation and innovation. In this context, the pandemic has been an accelerator, a speed up, and forced a process of transformation. Because mainly, and we see not only in cultural heritage, but also in other sectors and businesses, we had to rethink the work organization, using remote working, using other way of organizing and working together, because we know that remote working is not only using Zoom or Meet, but it's changing the structure of work, the way we organize it. Then upgrading the distribution and communication channels. So if museums, of course, have their main points in their space and their the thing that they show physically, they are starting to be present online, not only with a website that helps to plan the visit, but also with virtual tour, reconstruction, videos and contents that can be viewed also remotely, and that can be used as an alternative of the visit, but also as a complementary information, a complementary experience. For this, we need an updating of competencies and skills. We are involved in many projects, in many European funded projects about digital competencies and transferable skills, because the European Union is working hard and trying to giving a framework in which new competencies related to the digital wars could be recognized. So, for example, a social media manager that is an expert of communication with social media is not recognized now as a professional figure. And what are the skills that a new professional in the museum and in the cultural heritage sector should have now to face not only the COVID, but also the larger process of digital transformation that was already going on? And so in the cultural heritage, it is necessary also to rethink experiences. Of course, we know that we should have to rethink how we experience the museum, we experience the piece of arts, and so on. So maybe joining new technologies, like we are already doing museums, as we participated in several projects using augmented reality, virtual reality to enhance the visiting experience. In this case, we have to rethink the experience, taking into account also the limitation that we have to face with the pandemic. But of course, in the change of the experience, we have to consider the how is evolving the needs and also the taste of the public of the museum. So we see that museum organizes temporary events, exhibits, and so on, just to attract people. So in this way, the experience could be an important factor in the evolution of the sector. And of course, rethinking spaces, merging physical spacing and virtual physical spaces and virtual spaces, and also using new technologies to transform spaces in smart spaces. And so I want to briefly talk about one of the projects we are following, that is MUSA project, Museum Sector Alliance, that is an Erasmus Plus project, so a European funded, developed in the last 4 years between Greece, Italy, and Portugal. So it's a strong Mediterranean project. And so it started far before the pandemic, but was aimed to address the disconnection between formal education and training of the world of work, addressing the shortage of digital skills in the sector. What does it mean? That we saw that to achieve a digital transformation in the museum sector, we need a cultural transformation of people that are working in the sector and that will work in the sector. And at the present moment, we saw that at the university and there is a lack of formal education about the mix of cultural, digital skills and soft skills that are needed to work in an evolving world. So in 2016, Europe-wide research was done to identify new museum job roles. So the question was, what are the professional figures that we need in the museum of the 21st century, the 21st century? So what are the professional figures that we need for the digital transformation of museums? And if we look at this figure now, we can see that our key figure also to face this new challenge. So we identified the digital strategy manager, that is the responsible of the overall strategy of the museum, not only for communication, but also for the experience inside the exhibit space and and so on. The digital collection curator, that is a really innovative figure because it takes care of the collection inside the museum space and the virtual collection. We noticed in our research that there are a lot of museums that doesn't have a physical space, but they are born online. So they have only virtual collection. And so a virtual collection needs a curator as a physical one needs. Then the digital interactive experience developer, because we know that the user experience is as a key role, especially if we don't want to understand the museum just as a place to show piece of art, but a place to create and develop knowledge. So we know that when we interact with something, we are able to learn and to understand better something. So creating experience means also to engage people, but also to spread culture. And of course, the online community manager, as we said, as we know in our life, social networks, digital communication is important. And now having a community is vital for every business. And even if we should not think at a museum as a business, it has a lot of elements that should act as a business, needs to attract new visitors, needs to having a sustainability. So after this, we identified digital and transferable skills for each profile, designing a blended course that lasted for 1 year, and Link was deeply involved in this course. The first part was an online course, a MOOC, so a massive open online course that involved 3,800 students in the 3 countries. Then we have from this course almost 2,000 students that graduated, and then 120 students that accessed to the second step. Well, the first step was only online. The second step was a blended course. It means that it included an online part and in-presence part. So we had face-to-face lesson with the students, and it was very interesting because it was a very high-level courses with a lot of students that was already working inside the museums. And the most interesting part was the last one, the work-based learning. That was a on-the-job training, and we have a map of the museums that were involved in the projects. So students went inside museums trying to develop their final course project. But the final course project was actually a digital transformation process project for the museum. So in some cases we have an exhibit, in some cases we have a communication strategy. And it was very interesting because it showed the digital readiness of museums. So in certain cases we saw that our students were the only one speaking the digital language and bringing some digital transformation elements inside the place. While in other cases, there was the whole organization that wanted to change, and so they find a very good environment to develop their projects. And now we are, now that the courses ended in March, we are following them, and we see that some structure want to continue this process and giving a future to this project. So for us, it was a sign that there were a transformation already going on, and then this emergency just speed up some elements. And it's important to invest in knowledge and in cultural change and in a mind shift of people that work and will work in the sector, because that is the key of the process. And as we cannot wait that visitor and people ask for new things. We have to be ready, and for the reason, as a university, we have to prepare people for what will happen. For the reason, this project, even if now is ended, Link University will endorse this course that will be offered also the next year. And so we hope it will be successful as this first edition. So I hope I was my 10 minutes, no, 14 minutes. So if you have questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Massimiliano. I like your terminology about rethinking experience. It's very interesting. It's something more than shared our experience. We need to share it, then we rethink about it. Thank you very much. Now we can go to the conclusion. Over around 2 hours, we discussed many things according to Rethinking Heritage and the dramatic situation we live now. Is it enough to crystallize a solid conclusion? My opinion is what we have done today is a good start point on 2 levels. Firstly, a methodological start point to build the knowledge, which consider our valuable heritage as a bridge to the future. Heritage is a bridge for the future. Secondly, a practical start point. Help us to hold another activities, to continue our discussions and add other questions that needs to answer to achieve our goals. For instance, we were planning to organize an event in Egypt next month, but according to current situation, we have postponed into later one. The theme of this event is Heritage is a Bridge to the Future. Today, we have some valuable ideas to deal with the situation in the present time and future. We have shared experiences and visions of our speakers and attendees. And we have fantastic initiatives to how we can collaborate with us in Habitat World Biennale 2022. On behalf of Habitat World, I would like to thank you one by one. Our special guest, Mr. Ambassador Hisham Badr, the Arab Republic of Egypt to Italy, our Wassim Naghi, UMAR President, Dr. Hala Aslan, ICOMOS expert, Dr. Nicola Ditullio, Cultura, Italiae, Dr. Jyoti Hosagrahar from UNESCO Deputy Director, World Heritage Center, Dr. Adeline Granerau, the Directrice du Musée de Provence, Syria, Dr. Massimiliano Di Bitonto, Link Campus University, and Dr. Riccardo Onori, Link Campus University. But finally, I am grateful for something. Yes, something. Something is very tiny. You see it? I don't know exactly from where it comes and to where it will take us to go. Something very teeny. Look for it. You see it? You can go deep to see it. Yes, I am grateful to COVID-19, simply for reviving the sense of we in our spirits. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really happy to be with you and be part of this successful event. And Eva, we can close now our event, or what do you think? We can find it. Wassim, you are here. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And we will prepare our report and resend to you. Really, thank you again, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Goodbye. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.